Well, hello there. Welcome to Monday night. We're going to try to make Monday nights great. As always, got a great guest for you. Joey from One Way to Make is going to show us how to make some good times. We're going to enjoy this interview. If you're watching this on replay and you want to jump ahead to the interview, you may want to fast forward about 10 or 11 minutes and we'll get started. Otherwise, if you're with us live, enjoy the countdown.
Just buying that software isn't what makes the difference. You've got to learn to use that tool, just like you've got to learn to use your high-end Powermatic woodworking tools or Festool for Sedge out there.
So I think you got to kind of leverage all of it.
And I just realized this is a new camera. I didn't take off the protective plastic over it, so I don't know if that was blurry or not for you. Oops.
Oh, hey, look at that.
In your little intro, which was very well put together, as I was sitting backstage and you had all these little clips from your previous guests. There was lots of good information in there, but somebody mentioned, just finding that thing that you love and do the thing you love. Don't make things that you don't like making.
In terms of growing a business, especially a business where you make things, is make the things you want to sell. I want to say Brad Rodriguez said this many times a while back, where it's like, if you don't want to sell cutting boards, stop making cutting boards. If you want to sell tables, make some tables and sell them at a loss if you have to, just to get some tables out there you sold. You attract clients that you can show you've actually made a thing. If you're trying to sell couches, don't keep making coasters telling people you can make couches. Make some couches.
A lot of times, usually when people start out on YouTube or when they're building a YouTube channel, they'll feel like their energies, if it's a scale of 1 to 10, they'll feel like they're at like an 8 or a 9, and they'll be like, whoa! But then when they actually watch themselves on camera, it's actually more like a 2 or 3.
You do take sponsors, especially as a lot of the smaller channels. And there's two ways that they talk about sponsorship. Sponsorship is someone paying you to do something, and the other one is getting free tools and stuff.
Launch day is my favorite day. That is my favorite day of the week. I just absolutely love launching videos and getting the feedback. So yeah, that's most videos take 4 to 5 full days to make. And I would like to streamline that. I would like to put out more videos in a week.
It's really kind of sad because I didn't get involved even when he was doing the noodle boards. He pretty much did all that. I did everything in the house so that he could stay in the shop a lot.
I am a little conflicted, I think. It initially started off with just sharing like my sewing machines and sewing tips and stuff like that. And then it kind of morphed into sharing the Mastering Mayhem merch items that I was making. And then along the way, I kind of shared some DeWalt tool and obsessions that I've had.
Hats off to Ira. I mean, I can't imagine doing it with small kids. That's a lot of work.
Well, this is a little chaotic, so.
My part really didn't start until Live Edge started. When we started Live Edge, I don't know, I felt different about everything. It felt real to me. I think everything started feeling real to him, after the first few months because he was in the shop. It didn't really feel real to me until Live Edge started. And now I see this as my future too. I don't think I'll be a teacher much longer.
Because I wasn't quite niched enough, but I think because my channel name is I Don't Even Work Here, I think I'm just going to roll with.
I'm going to put out some shorts for stage.
One thing I'm good at probably more than anything else is business and understanding the way businesses work and how to run a business. And I always come at from very much the Moneyball approach. I don't want to hit home runs. I just want to get on base and get on base and get on base.
And I think it's easier for people to look at my story, for example, or anybody like in a similar story and think that was an easy decision. And I can't state how much that was a very hard decision for both my wife and I.
I like the premise of doing a tool review, comparing two tools, and especially if they are popular tools.
You can make the life you want to, you can make the business you want to, whatever it is you want to make.
It wasn't like YouTube's good and this and that. Like I was still pretty new to YouTube and didn't know that was sustainable long term, and so it was a gamble. And I'd worked for a long time to get in the position I was at, and it was a very, very hard decision to basically give that up for potentially the rest of my life.
I never even considered the second channel. I just think all of my content needs to go where I am.
It's a lot of risk and fear, but moving through those deliberately.
There's a system to it, and you follow that system.
So what have you learned and done to try to change? And so that's the thing I always do is it's a continuous process of evolution.
Scheduling and trying to edit and get a video out, like it's really hard to follow exactly. If you do that and do it consistently, it'll generate views.
Interesting. A lot of times you might see channels or businesses that are frustrated because they're not growing, and you look and you realize that for years or dozens of iterations, you look at the most recent and you go back a few years or a few dozen iterations and there's zero change.
I'd like to see channels evolve into more of like a channel, like we're traditional like TV channel, where you have a channel, but there's different shows within that channel, and you could have the segment for your shorts or your live streams and your longs, all these different things, and people can kind of just pick and choose what they want to watch.
And my goal isn't to get the most views on YouTube. My goal is to provide confidence, inspiration, and knowledge through entertaining and engaging content. So
what's the next step? What is the next thing? What's going to get you to that next place?
You got to get them to click. You got to get them to watch. I'm terrible at thumbnails. I hate doing them. I would stress so bad over doing them. I've actually hired somebody else to do them now. That's why they look different. I'm not doing them anymore. I took that out of my hands, and I'm stress-free on that part.
Another thing is also onboarding people that are better than me at something. So I have an editor I've been working with for about 2 years now.
One day it just kind of hit me that, okay, I watch a lot of these videos and I obviously find value in them. Why can I not be the person on the other side of the camera, right? Providing the content and the information.
With me being a business-minded individual and trying to make sure that I'm providing for my family, but also always growing.
Our audience smells authenticity, and whether or not you're enjoying what you do very easy.
I'll always be that individual that loves YouTube, that always wants to do extremely detailed videos on how to build.
I feel like the biggest challenge is probably getting yelled at to put on protective.
I'm still focused on my woodworking. I'm focused on trying to get better. I just want to try new things and break barriers and just be the best woodworker I can be, and then document that. I just don't really have the time or desire to really become a student of YouTube. So I'm always playing catch up. I'm always just doing the best I can to get the most out of what we're doing, but I am no student of YouTube, that's for sure.
A good plan of attack is to create a channel on YouTube or an account on YouTube that you don't have any ties to. You've never watched anything on there, and just start watching content you're interested in on that channel. Don't watch the news, or don't click off and start watching, the latest episode or whatever. Just use that account strictly for that, and that'll kind of start drumming up what's being surfaced to people. And then from there, you can kind of...
as far as equipment goes, and I say this adamantly all the time, there is nothing I've ever made that I couldn't make by hand. And I have a skill set that I've developed that I could make it by hand. Does having a CNC make it faster? You bet it does.
The big change that I've seen is that people have gotten even shorter attention spans than normal. So if you are going to start a YouTube channel and you're going to start recording yourself working, keep the pace really, really fast. People get bored super quick, and when they get bored, they either start tapping those arrow keys to speed through the video, or else they'll just drag the slider across the screen so that they can speed through and skip to the end and see what you've built. But if you want to engage them throughout the whole video, you've got to keep the pace really, really fast.
Basically structure your channel so that you generate more views. They watch one video, they're going to watch the next, the next, the next. If you look, and you can tell the difference I can see it in my analytics. I can see it in the way my channel's structured.
The first thing that I would recommend to anybody, and this of course applies to any niche that you're looking to start a channel for, is before you even take the first steps in terms of researching and all that, which we'll talk about in a second, I would have a really honest conversation with yourself about what you're looking to get out of the channel and what your expectations are.
As a rule of thumb, post-production takes 6 times recorded footage length. Not shoot time, but recorded footage length. So if you record a 5-minute clip, it's going to take you a minimum of 30 minutes to edit that 5-minute clip, even if you only edit down into 30 seconds, because you have to watch it, then you make some notes, and then you watch it again, you make some cuts, and you watch it again. And then when it fits into the timeline, by a rule, you're going to see that same clip roughly 6 times.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Hey, welcome to the live stream. We are very excited to have you with us tonight. I just want to say thank you for being here. It's been crazy. I've had to work long hours lately, and I missed you last week, but I'm super psyched to be here tonight. Got a great guest for you. I think we're going to have some fun. Let me remind you that the chat is where it's at. In my opinion, part of the live stream experience is being able to chat it up with each other in the chat. You can send me messages, our guest messages. If you do send us a message and it's a question, please put a Q at the beginning of your chat comment so I can find it and we can try to get all those answered. And of course, as always, put an M at the beginning of your chat comment. If you're celebrating if you're celebrating a milestone. Again, thank you for being here. We do have a great guest, as you see by the scrolling ticker. Joey from One Way to Make is here tonight. Let's bring Joey on. He's got over 2.8 million views, on his way to 3 million views. He's got about 9,000 subscribers in less than a year. He's just growing like crazy and putting out some great content. And welcome, Joey.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your willingness to come on. I
Absolutely
set this up with you a while back, and
yeah,
tonight was the night it worked out for. So I appreciate your willingness to come on.
Oh, absolutely. No, I've been looking forward to it.
So, One Way to Make. Now, I love that name for a channel. The concept of you're presenting one way to make something, whether it's a woodworking project or other projects to come in the future, I'm sure. But you're just showing us how to make one thing at a time, one way. How did you come up with that?
Well, great question. So I definitely didn't want to make myself seem like an expert because at most of the things I'm trying, I'm not. I am maybe an intermediate or maybe a total beginner. And sometimes in a project, your interest changes. Sometimes because of necessity, the right way to do it might be the most, inexpensive way to do it. Or if you're sometimes the right way to do it might be for beauty or for structure, but it changes constantly and it's different for everyone. So I never wanted to put out the idea that there was a right or wrong way to do something, but plenty of ways. And I'm always just trying to show off one way.
I think that's great. And one of the things I like about your videos is that you, even though it's one way to make, as you go throughout your project, you tell people, I'm using a jigsaw, but you could use a bandsaw. Yeah. I'm using the table saw, but you could do this with a straight edge and a circular saw. So even though you're showing one way to make, you are educating, especially new users, that there's other options to accomplish the same thing. I love that.
Well, thank you so much. No, that's always the goal, just because it can be everyone's situation so different. And some people have a lot of access to tools, even if they don't own the tools. Some people just have a lot of access to them because of community and whatever else. And some people don't, or some people have wonderful, even expensive tools, but they don't have space. So those tools are going to be hand tools instead of larger things. So it just changes for everything, for every person. And so we like to try to give options. Sometimes it's tough. And sometimes I will overlook an option. So I love if anyone ever points out, hey, here's another way to handle this. But it's definitely, I still am using pretty introductory tools, pretty basic power tools, but still it did take me, a few years to get the tools that I have. For a long time, I was borrowing and kind of trying to make things work that weren't really right for the job. But as long as you're being safe about it, I don't think that it really matters if you don't have maybe your ideal tool. I think if you can do it in a safe way, you can usually, if you can find a way to make it work, then it's the right way for you, for sure.
Yeah. One of the things you mentioned a minute ago was that sometimes you're more experienced on your projects and sometimes you're not. One of your videos, and you have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I saw one of your videos where you were laying tile.
Yeah.
And it was like your first time doing tile work.
Absolutely. So that's it's funny you pointed out at the beginning of the video how I was at 2.8 million views, and it's funny how that goes because most of those come from just a couple of videos, and we can talk more about that later. But yes, that's one of my, it's a short video. It was the second short video I made. And it was the first time I had ever cut a tile or used mortar. I'd used some concrete before on rough things, but never mortar. And first time using a trowel, truly. And so it was, but I really enjoyed it. And it was, what I tried to get across in the video is that this might not be true for everyone, but what I've found to be pretty consistently true for myself is trying something new. It can be scary, especially the more you think about it. You kind of build it up in your head, and it almost at some points can seem insurmountable, at least to me. But then if you actually get in there and try something, it's usually, not that bad. I felt that way the first time I used a table saw. I remember it felt like a tool that carpenters used, and I wasn't a carpenter. I was just some guy trying to make something. But you get that first piece through, and maybe it's burnt a little bit, or maybe it's not a perfect cut, or you set the fence wrong and it's too small, but you did it, and then the next one's easier. That's how I felt about the tile, just that I got them down. It was no longer a tripping hazard. It wasn't going to cut anyone's feet. It was in my own house, and the quality of life improvement for such a cheap job was just so nice. And if I ever have problems with it down the road, we'll deal with it then. I'm not saying it was a perfect fix, but it was one way to fix it, and I've been really happy with it.
That's it's one of the great but intimidating things about home projects. You would never want to do something for the first time, or I don't, if it's for someone else.
Right.
But if it's for me, I can deal with it knowing that I can undo it and redo it if I need to. But it's always a little bit intimidating, especially like you say, new equipment, like you said, the new saw or a new skill. I mean, putting laminate on or doing a vinyl floor or, any of these skills that we gain over time, there had to be a first time.
Absolutely. Even people with, 30 years of experience in something who are truly masters in it. And it's just such a treat to see their work. But what I think sometimes people can forget is it was their first day on a job site at 1.2, and they probably made some of the silly mistakes that everyone does. No one's a master from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of we had a question roll in that kind of addressed some of the things you mentioned. I see you have 3 million views with only 18 videos. With the new monetization and shorts updates, what is your shorts long form strategy?
Oh, that's an awesome question. So I am not monetized at this point. I've got the subscribe for the traditional way to get monetized in the long form way. I've got the required amount of subscribers, but the watch time only gets calculated through long form videos. So my long form videos still don't have enough watch time to be monetized. If those numbers were looked at for all of the watch time, I'd be relatively higher than that limit, but they're only looked at for long form. And then the new, as I understand it, the new shorts requirements that will start in January, I believe will be 10 million views over a 90-day period. And so by those, I still won't be, I'm around that 2.8 or 3 million. So at those, I still won't be eligible when that happens. But maybe there will at some, because they don't look at watch time. They just look at the views on that one. So to go a little deeper into that, I do plan to use kind of the hybrid strategy. When I started, I went quite a while without doing any shorts. They also, just like laying tile, intimidated me, partly because I felt like it was going to be hard to compress information into a minute-long video, but also, and this may seem silly, but just because of the vertical format, throughout my life, I've been a big, movie fan. That was the first time I had done any filming or editing. Wasn't because of woodworking. It was because I thought I would want to make a movie. So I had this mental block about that vertical form. But of course, with anything else, it's just another thing that you don't really think about after you do it. So now that I've tried it, and those are my higher watched videos traditionally, I'll plan to hopefully use them to work together. Right now, we've been working on a series of videos that surround cutting boards. And the idea that I'm trying to use on this series that we'll see if it works, maybe we'll pivot afterward, but is to have 1 or 2 long form videos, and that's out now, which really goes over in detail how to everything you would truly need to know to make one for yourself. And then 4 or 5 shorts that supplement that one might just be an overview. And then if you want to know more, you can go to that long form video, or they might just be little tips or tricks that I couldn't really find a great place for in the long form video. And I don't know how that will work, but I think it could be, I hope it works, because I think it could be nice to kind of have those series set up. So if someone watches a video and is wanting to know more about it, they can kind of just go to that playlist page on your page and then find out, oh, I don't just get this long form video, I get these 5 or 6 short little videos that show me something extra or just a little funny or something like that.
And so, a lot of people struggle with the idea of converting viewers that you get through your shorts to long form content, because people tend to be very
divided
on opposite ends about shorts. You either love them or you hate them. But I think there's a third group that's in the middle that don't admit that they love them, but watch some and enjoy the content. But how difficult do you think that is to convert the short form content viewer to watch some of your longer stuff?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've had definitely some difficulties with it. And I wouldn't say that, maybe difficulties isn't a fair word, because I would never, it's absolutely fine if one of my viewers only enjoys those short form ones. I think that the spirit is the same in both the short form and long form. So I definitely suggest to people that, hey, if you've just found me through shorts, come on and check out the long form videos as well. But it's fine if they don't. Some people are just into that, into one or the other. But I think what I'm trying to do is, in my shorts videos, and of course you don't have much time to do much, but just promote a long form video in them if they're related. And then through looking at analytics, one thing that I've noticed is most of my subscribers also come from shorts. And one thing that for my first few videos, I never asked for people to subscribe. Also just a mental block around it. It felt I don't know, it felt like I didn't have the right to ask for something from them, but now I do. But I'm also going to try to ask for to turn on notifications, because I've noticed that even some people like in my own life who watch the videos and are subscribed, they're not necessarily seeing when I put out a new video. So if that's true with people who've watched all my videos, then it must be even worse for people who only have watched a couple of shorts. So I think trying to push those people to turn on notifications would probably be a next logical step. And then just trying, to hopefully promote content that they might still enjoy, even though it's a different format.
Inviting people to take action, to give them that action, to subscribe, like, hit notifications, turn on notification is always, it's always difficult for me to do that, because you don't want to seem like a salesperson who's just doing videos to get,
Totally.
success on YouTube. You have a mind of, I want to serve others by sharing knowledge and hopefully
Right.
a little bit of entertainment with them. But sometimes it's easier to ask for that if you do it in a corny way. So I just want to remind everybody that tonight's live stream is brought to you by the letter O for One Way to Make. And if you're enjoying what you're seeing, please hit that like button.
Absolutely.
So Sandy, who asked that last question, has a milestone. She says, working for Daryl Eves now, learning so much.
Awesome.
I think you already knew so much, Sandy, but that is congratulations right there. I know you really like Daryl Eves, and I hope you're having a great time doing it. So whenever you're making short videos and you get a lot of views on a short, you pick up some subscribers on a short, I know we talked about the transition. How do you transition that to a long form? But my thought process is, if you put out a 30-second video, 30 seconds to 59 seconds, and it gets you makes one good connection for you.
Absolutely.
It seems like it's worth it in the long run. You build up those people that you can connect with through the internet on YouTube that will be loyal viewers and appreciate what you're doing. That building those long-term relationships seem very rewarding to me.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And it's a snowball effect, I think, but it's also, you can't always see what direction, you can't always predict what direction something will take. And I've had such interesting things come out of some of the videos, and especially the shorts, that I remember that same exact mentality when I was debating releasing my first short video. I said, if I can just get one subscriber from it, then it won't have been a waste, and I'll know whether I want to try it again. And that is my highest video now. So it was more successful than that. But I think the sentiment is still true. I think we can be hard on ourselves if with like a long form video, no matter what you do, at least for myself, you have an expectation of your head of, I hope this gets, hope this is my best video ever, or I hope, whatever comes from that. But you don't always know where something's going to lead. I've heard other people who make YouTube videos talk about how, a video at first didn't perform well, but then 6 months later it blew up, or just, those 5 or 10 subscribers you get from it, even if you were hoping for 100, they might be truly loyal people who are watching, 90 or 100% of through a video on every video you put out. And that is, that's way more important than just a number on the screen. So, you just don't know what it's going to lead to, and it's exciting to see where it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I've noticed about your videos, you do a lot of voiceover.
Yes.
So whenever you are planning for your videos, I imagine you're planning your project and then planning your video. Is that how you develop your script, for lack of other term? Is
Yes.
knowing that you'll do the video first and then add the voiceover?
That's a great question. So the process that I found has worked for me so far is I make out a plan to build a project, but not necessarily a plan for the video's format yet, or even a length. Yeah, I've had some videos that maybe I thought would end up being, I don't know, 18 to 20 minutes in my head. And then when I get to the final edit, I found I've showed everything in 9. So I don't try to go in with that much set up. So I try to start focused on the project. And then also lately I've been trying to focus more on getting shots that I think will be compelling, not necessarily shots that will just tell the story, but that will be dynamic to look at and interesting. And then from the point that I have the raw footage, I usually dump all of that into an editing program. And then I do a rough first edit just to get what I feel like with no voiceover, at least somewhat, maybe not tells the full story of the build, but that you could watch from beginning to the end and say, oh, well, yeah, he built this thing. I see he started with rough wood and he built this. And then from that point, I write a script. I watch the video a few times, quite a bit, and write a script that describes what I'm doing in those shots. Then I record the voiceover for it, which is it takes just forever because it seems like you're never happy with your voice on camera, or at least I'm not. And at that point, I link up the audio to the video, and then there's usually some discrepancies there, meaning there will be a minute-long section of edge banding that the voiceover that I think described it has only taken 15 seconds. And then you make the decision of, do I shrink this minute-long section to 15 seconds? Or have I not explained something in the voiceover? Should I re-record that to get some a longer audio there? Or if I'm really happy with the audio and the length of that, is this a good opportunity to, ask for a like and a subscribe or something like that? So then I do a final. There's lots of final edits, but I move on to trimming that video or extending that video to match the audio a little better, re-record things if I don't feel they're explaining them well. And then from that point on, I play around with the natural sounds, which traditionally I either remove or at least turn down pretty low in the mix, meaning the sounds of the saws or the router. And I haven't totally settled on if I think that that's right for me or not, but I play with it. And then I add music, which I just use a generic, like the free YouTube music traditionally for that. And then you just watch it through a bunch and find the parts you like and don't like and play around with it until maybe it's not until it's ever really done, but until you're somewhat happy with it enough that you can hit that publish button.
Yeah, I think that's a great process. The sounds that you're talking about, I like the sound of a saw, whenever the volume's not too loud, and videos that show hand tools, a plane going across a nice piece of wood is just a great sound.
I totally agree.
So that's great that you're making adjustments with that. What was your inspiration to start a YouTube channel? Had you done this before with a different channel?
No, I hadn't. So this was my first one. So a few different things. To start woodworking, it was mostly done for the need. We built a house quite a few years ago now, but when we did, we learned that we spent all our money on the house and didn't have any money for furniture. So we had to kind of improvise and make our own, and borrow tools. It took scrap lumber, whatever else. We still have a coffee table from 6 or 7 years ago. That was the first thing I built, and it's just so embarrassing to look at now. But hey, it got me started on a fun process. So, and then I kind of just grew with that. But to answer your question truly about starting the YouTube channel, I learned. In high school, I had done a video vocational course, where you learn to kind of film and edit. And I never thought I would really do anything with it. It was just a passion of mine. So one of those barriers I didn't have because I already knew what an editing software was. So I didn't have that fear of, oh, what do I even do with this raw footage after I take it? I kind of at least knew the basics of that. And then how I learned to do most of my projects was through YouTube. And it was... I kind of even got to the woodworking videos in a strange way. I used to focus when I was younger more on things that involved film or prop making or just silly little things like that. And through that, I found Adam Savage and Bill Duran at Punished Props. And one day on Punished Props, they had recommended the podcast Making It. And so I started listening to that. And then one day, a year after that, I went in, I started watching all their videos as well, the three of them. And then they one time recommended the Modern Maker podcast. So then I found that podcast and all of those woodworkers from that. And then from them, YouTube knew what I wanted and just showed me a ton of woodworkers. And, I watched them for years. And at first, I can't even quite tell you why I was doing it. It was just entertainment, I believe. But eventually you got to the point where you're just like, oh, I've picked up techniques from this, maybe the like the Karate Kid wax on, wax off things. You don't realize you're learning, but you have. And so then when I started to make my own stuff, it felt good. It felt like I had a little prerequisite knowledge. And from that point, I had made things for not too long, a couple years, 2 or 3 years that I had really, we renovated our basement because we needed an extra bedroom. And that was just something we had to do, but I really enjoyed doing it. And we were getting ready to redo my son's bedroom about a year ago, almost exactly a year ago. And we needed to paint and rip out the carpet and put down some flooring. I wanted to build a pegboard wall, which I had seen and just looked really cool to me. I needed a TV stand and a nightstand. And I just couldn't get the idea out of my head that it might be fun to at least take some pictures of it. So I got a cheap little tripod and used my phone. But then for whatever reason, I think I had probably deep down known what I wanted to do, but I was just like, well, instead of taking some pictures, how about I just hit record and just do a time lapse and see what happens. And from that point, I watched it back and just really loved seeing what I had made. So I downloaded a free editing software and dumped it into that. And a couple weeks later, I had something that at first I thought would just be for me. But I was not 100% happy with it, nor am I with any of my videos, but I thought that it might have value to someone. and I felt like it was something I wanted to share. So I felt like, what's the worst that could happen? I get embarrassed and pull all the videos down later. So I put it on, and it's been very slow, especially at first, but I've really enjoyed it. I've had an awesome time. And as soon as I got the first video out, I was kind of hooked and just wanted to keep doing more. And that's still where the process I am now. Of course, work a full-time job and have the family and everything else, but we definitely always excited to start a new project and film it and get it edited.
Yeah, the full-time job will get in the way.
Yeah, it happens. It happens, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's life. That's life. So you started your onewaytomake.com.
Yep, I did.
Did you design the website, or did you hire that out?
I didn't hire it out. I used a service. I used Shopify. To be totally honest, I went with a pretty basic format from them. So I didn't need to know how to do any coding or anything like that. It was mostly dragging and dropping pictures and text blocks, which was great for me because that's not something that I have any experience with. It could be improved by miles, but I'm really happy with it. And some of those softwares really do make things easy for a beginner. And the website hasn't turned into much yet, but I sure do like to show it off and be able to write something with that channel's name in it and then put the .com at the end. It feels pretty cool, and definitely it's been fun to show off to people for sure.
Yeah. So, are you selling a lot of projects on the side?
That is a great question. I do not sell any projects on the side, and that's not by a choice. I am making my most recent long form video, which I talked a little bit about earlier, is on some cutting boards.
Mm-hmm.
We made up some curly maple cutting boards and then some spalted beech and black epoxy cutting boards. And my hope is to sell some of each of those, and then a few more cutting board projects or charcuterie boards or serving platters or whatever you want to call them, but a few more things of that nature. And we're doing not to plug too hard, but we're doing a giveaway through that YouTube video for the next 2 weeks. So people can win either a curly maple or a spalted beech cutting board if they comment. So anyone watching, feel free to check that out. But my hope is to sell some of those, but they're really the first things I've made with the intention of selling. Mostly because my time has felt limited in that we have so many projects that we're trying to get done for ourselves that whenever I have time to make something, that takes the priority. Right now, we need a new coffee table, we need a dining table and a bench to go with it. We've got another project coming up, hopefully that is not quite ready to announce yet, but that's going to take up some time, a remodel project, hopefully that will take up some time and be exciting, possibly with a sponsor. So that could be great. But I would love to make things to sell for commission, or actually, I think I would love to make something and then try to sell it. But I also think the idea of a customer coming to me with a want could be really fun to try to build something specifically for that. And I know most people don't enjoy that, and I'm sure I wouldn't forever. But where it's not something that I've ever done before, I do think it would be really exciting to kind of work in parameters of someone's wants and needs. So hopefully we'll do more of that in the future. But so far, it hasn't been a huge thought. It's more been just building whatever we need.
Yeah, so I saw your video on the beach cutting board, and I left a comment because I really like that beach cutting board.
I saw that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I encourage everyone, go over, watch that video. There's brief instructions in the video somewhere telling you how to enter, and it is so simple to enter. So go watch the video, enjoy the process. I really like watching router work anyway, and
yes,
you know, trim bits and pattern bits are great fun.
They really are.
So it's great to enjoy that. So, well, I understand wanting to grow those sales, you know, but it's not the most important thing in life. If you have a full-time job and
totally. I absolutely agree. And I think it's with many things, I guess, kind of the point of the channel, that one way to make spirit is so true with, you know, if someone was trying to make money with something, or some people just want to do something as a hobby. But I think there are many ways to accomplish what you're looking for. For whatever reason, for me, when I got started, the idea for making money at doing something like this, which was absolutely something I have wanted to and would like to do, but the avenue that made sense for that was to get monetized. And that's still my goal, but or a goal of mine. But selling things never really occurred to me, and sponsorships never really occurred to me. Or Patreon, you know, things like that. None of those ever really clicked. It was that kind of sole focus of attaining monetization, and through YouTube. So it's been, at first I didn't have Instagram, and then until about a month ago I didn't have Facebook, and then a couple months before that I did TikTok as well. I was really solely focused on YouTube, which I think that was because that's what I consume most of my media on. But that's such a funny thing because that's not true for everyone. So I think people should try to be open to other revenue streams, or just seeing what happens, because I still at this point am not monetized. Again, hopefully sometime. But I have achieved some things that I never would have expected. You know, revenue streams from other platforms. Facebook's been the main one, and I've been really lucky to have that, and just totally unexpected. And you know, different videos of mine, the same video, shorts, do quite different on different platforms. And I don't have an answer for why that's the case. It may just be the luck of the draw with the algorithm, or, you know, just how many people happen to see it and like it in that first 24-hour period. Or it might be that different viewers on different platforms have different interests. I really don't know, but it's been very interesting to see. And I think it's a real, it makes, if something hasn't been performing well, it kind of takes that sting away a little bit, because you can just, or at least I can tell myself, well, maybe this just wasn't the right platform for it, or it wasn't the right time for it, or just in these statistics that I'm looking at, it's not doing what I want it to. But that one important person might see it who might want to do a sponsorship. Or I can always try it somewhere else. Or what if I tried to re-edit it as a short instead? Or, you know, lots of different options. But I think that I got myself a little too pigeonholed into thinking there was only one certain way to go about it. And just like anything else, there's really not. There's a lot of ways to succeed. Or, you know, someone might fall into selling things, you know, find out that they have one product that from one video that people just love, and be able to just focus focus on making those if they're interested in that. So it's there's a lot of different ways to find success, I think.
Yeah, that's just a couple of weeks ago. I had Jason Bent from Bent's. Yeah. Okay, so had him on for the show, and he was talking about being monetized, you know, the different income streams, and he said, you know, if you make one thing and you can find 6 or 7 ways to monetize it,
right?
You know, you got the video with AdSense, and then if you can connect a sponsor, and if you could get a company to give you the materials, and you know, he was listing all those things. And you know, whenever I started YouTube on my other channel, I honestly didn't know you can make money doing this. I thought it was just for fun and to share what you had. And I was like, you know, and then I started hearing things about this company got monetized. I was like, what does that mean? You know, I'm monetized at work, right? They pay me, but it doesn't, you know, so it wasn't the motivation to get in. But it's a nice perk that YouTube provides this platform and gives you the opportunity to share in the profits, because they're going to make theirs, right?
Yeah, no, it's a great symbiotic relationship that I don't think always gets, you know, thought about, but it's good for everyone, and not just YouTube and the creators, but viewers as well, being able to get free content, and then for a sponsorship as well, you know, for you know, pennies per view compared to some other forms of advertising. It can be, and you know that it's going to be, if you get a sponsorship that is related to what you're doing, knowing that that sponsor, knowing that the people viewing that video will be the most likely to be interested in their products, you know, it's great for everyone. I think, I mean, that's for great, you know, it works for YouTube, it works for the creator, viewer, and theoretically a sponsor. And it's a great system we've got here, or at least a good system.
Yeah. So Joey, whenever we'll go back to your shorts, I'll talk about that for a moment. Yeah. So whenever I had James King on here, he was talking about one of the shorts that he, you know, his only short at the time. And whenever he started to work on that video, he did some research, and he found that, you know, certain characteristics seem to add up to views in our niche, right? So he started, you know, looking at, they were able to tell a story, they were able to share a skill or a tip, provide entertainment. You know, he made this list. Do you think about those type of things whenever you're trying to put together the structure of your videos?
That's a really great question. So I try to, and sometimes I get lost along the way or taken down a different path. And there's also things that I think I could do different. It seems to be that videos where if I were to stop a project in the middle of it and speak to the camera about what I was doing, it seems like the YouTube algorithm likes that slightly better. Or even if I just filmed my voiceovers and then intercut that, people like that personal connection of a face. I may do that sometime. I've not got to that point yet, not because I think it's better or worse. It's just not how I see the videos in my head when I'm planning them out. So there's questions like that, and as well as thumbnails and showing emotions in them, or close-ups of face and arrows and all that good stuff, which I've used some of before. And those are all things that I don't necessarily make a lot of decisions on, but the content of videos, like you were mentioning before, I've come more to the point where my main information, I like to, the true teaching moments, I like to try to do in the long form videos, just because I think I have a little bit more time to explain in a way that might make sense to someone, or at least in a way that makes sense to me. The short form videos, I've found the information isn't as important, or at least it's harder for me to get it across. So I go more for the entertainment in those, or maybe something aspirational, like the tile video we spoke about. I went over the process of how to install that tile, but in pretty quick form and with pretty low detail. And the point of the video was more about, hey, get out there and try something. As long as you're being safe about it, what's the worst that can happen? And hopefully you'll learn a new skill. And that's worked well. I don't stick to that exactly, but that seemed to work well. So I think there's a lot that I still have to learn about what works in a video, even what has worked in my own videos. Sometimes I'll watch two of my videos, two of my long form videos that are similar lengths. The project might not be the same, but it's still in the same. They're still both woodworking related, and one will do much better than the other. And I don't still truly have a great understanding of, oh, hey, I did this, this, and this in this one video, and the audience just loved it. And in the other one, I missed the mark on these things. So I still think I have a lot to learn about that. But it's exciting to hear others talk about it and see what they found success with. And I think you just keep trying it and find a market. Either you learn to adapt, or you find a market that enjoys how you are.
Yeah, one of the things that I'll comment on your tile video is that there's, and this is theory, I haven't been able to execute it, but I think there's curiosity factors that get people to watch the video more than once, because you can't rewind it on most devices. You got to wait for it to loop through again. But the timing of the tile cutter, you went through that so quick. And that's a tool that I don't think most people have interacted with, or I think most people don't even know it exists.
Right.
So I think that might have part of the play, part of the reason that it played so well in the views is that capturing interest in something that people don't see every day can have them want to loop around and see it again. Now, wait a minute, how did he scored it and then he just broke in half a straight line? I think those kind of interest factors can help play well on shorts. I know whenever I do watch shorts sometimes, not a lot, but
me too. Yeah.
But sometimes, if there's something in there that I don't typically see, and I just see a glimpse of it, sometimes I'll watch that whole video again to get to that point, so I get a better view.
Absolutely.
It's like a mortising machine. I'm intrigued by that kind of thing. I don't have one. I've never laid hands on one.
Yeah.
I see one in a short, I'm gonna watch it.
Absolutely. And I think I think with both examples there, a tile cutter or a mortising machine, I think that people, even if they're not, or especially if they're not woodworkers or renovators or anything like that, but you see things, you're in your kitchen and you look at a floor and you see a tile that has like 4 little rectangles cut out of it. And whether it's conscious or not, you're just like, man, like that's pretty interesting. Or when you see, everyone knows how a drill works. So you see a round hole with a peg in it and someone says, yeah, I basically get that. But you see a square hole with a peg in it. And I don't know if it's totally conscious or not, but they're just like, wow, like that's interesting. What could have done that? And then if you see it, that machine, then I think that it immediately is, it's something you want to learn about. And again, like you said, with the shorts, that short amount of time, it can be not enough, which will cause people to rewatch, which is great. And it's not too much to ask to rewatch when it's only a 50-second long video. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's part of the human element, right? That
yes,
we want to know how things work in this world, even if we're not going to do them. I mean,
absolutely.
I like to know, the basics of things, even if I'm never going to do them. I don't have interest in building a car,
right?
But I've watched, History Channel or one of those channels have show someone building one up, a hot rod from the bottom up. I've watched a show like that just because it's interesting. I'm never going to do it. I'm not going to do it.
I totally agree. And it is interesting. And then I've also, not every single thing, but I do think that many of the things we do in life have, lessons you can learn. Like, I think you will take something from that content, and it will just stick inside your brain, and then it will help you with something, whatever it may be. I do think that it's things are a lot more interconnected than we sometimes realize. And so it's just, you might use the same resin on a car project or not the same resin, but still a resin, or a Bondo, which is still just a 2-part form like epoxy would be, that you might use on a woodworking project, or, whatever it might be. There's, or learn how to pin something so it pivots, and which could be used for a folding leg on something, whatever it may be. I think there's a lot of information we can take from anything that interests us.
Absolutely. Sandy says she's been binge watching shorts, learning from them, and I'm sure we're going to see more shorts coming out of Mackenzie Lumber Mill. So thanks, Sandy. So how did you get into woodworking?
Great question. So I had known some carpenters and woodworkers growing up, not extremely well, but I had been around some, which that was a great, it wasn't ever that I had the uncle or grandfather who was a woodworker, so I didn't learn anything firsthand or much firsthand that way, but I had at least seen people doing it, so I could understand that it was a profession and that it was something that you could learn to do. And then, but truly, it was all through YouTube. I just, my interest in it came from YouTube, and my first set of knowledge came to it from that. And again, I talked about it a little bit earlier, but I just kind of fell into it. At the beginning, I never went to YouTube and typed in, woodworking videos or how to use a table saw or how to make a chair. I just, fell into it, and it seemed to be something that instead of going back to the homepage, I was always clicking, more videos from this person, or going to that suggested feed and seeing other projects of similar natures. So, and really my interest just grew there. And I think that woodworking, as well as most skills, and especially on YouTube, I think that I've heard some people say that the market was saturated for YouTube woodworking videos or something like that. And I don't know if I necessarily feel that way. I think that it can be really helpful to even have multiple interpretations of the same process. And most people are doing different things anyway. But honestly, even if it was very similar, I just think the way that two people can describe something can really just hit you differently. I remember I was working on a project, a video. I've done 2 things with sliding doors now with no hardware, but the first one was a little media stand. And I really wanted it to have sliding doors, and I just couldn't it just seemed hard. I couldn't figure it out. And I watched a bunch of videos for it, and they were all good. And they were from some woodworkers who I really watched a lot of videos for. But for some reason, some of that information just wasn't sticking in my head. But then I found one video which had a section on it. And for whatever reason, it just really clicked for me. It was just described in the way that my brain worked. And I think that that is true with most things for most people. So I don't think it's a negative to have multiple people showing off different things. And again, going back to that one way to make, it's also great to have people get to the same end results through different processes. So it's I think it's nice to have that options for multiple videos. But yeah, no, my every video I watch, I just seem my interest in woodworking seems to grow. It's really been a really fun process, and every time you try something and succeed at it, it seems like you just want to roll right into the next thing. You mentioned routers and flush trim bits, and man, the first time I ever used a router, it was just such an exciting process. And then switching over to or getting a table that worked with it, so exciting. And or just going from utilitarian things like, this is a table that will hold a cup of coffee or in a dinner plate, to trying to add, artistry to it, something flourishes to make it look a little nicer or be a little sleeker or whatever you're looking for. So it's been a really fun process to get into, and I've really so far my interest just keeps growing in it, so hopefully we'll be able to continue to grow and make some great stuff.
So besides woodworking, what else do you want to get into on your channel? I know you've done some tile work.
Yeah. So we may have some more tile work coming up. We've got a project that needs it in the house. And so hopefully that could be exciting sometime. We'll see what happens there. And really whatever comes up. We've got a lot of things. We are building a garage right now because my workshop's in our basement, and it drives my family crazy when I'm trying to use saws all hours of the night. So we got to get me out of there. So we'll do building a little garage that we're not going to extreme detail in videos on how we're building that, although I have filmed some and we'll be releasing some content around that. So that's a big construction project, but I've done a lot of the work myself and hired out some parts of it. So it's not a process also show from scratch. But once we get in there, we've got definitely more woodworking projects to do. Some fun tile projects to do. And then whatever else comes up, we recently just finished up making the kids Halloween costumes, and we didn't record those this year, but who knows? Maybe we could try to make them from scratch, or at least partially. So maybe next year we'd even do that. And I think it's good to show off that you don't a master of something is amazing, but you don't have to be. You can have a lot of different interests and still make nice things, I believe. So rough. We'll be doing some rough carpentry. We have to build stud out and build a bathroom in my mother's turning her old finished barn into an Airbnb. So that's been a project we've worked on a little bit. So the next step of that is to stud up a bathroom, do something very simple and basic for that. Nothing fancy, just enough to get someone a working bathroom in there. So that will be exciting. And, I think there's a lot of content out there for it, but I think it's even simple things are nice to know, how to install a toilet, how to switch out a wax ring, what to do if a supply valve is leaking. The little things like that even if you don't know you want them, they're just good information to have. So I'm not opposed to doing content like that. So, and really we'll just see what happens. We're pretty excited to try new things. I think it's a really good question, and I never want to alienate an audience if they're used to you from woodworking videos. It is alienating to totally, to do 3 projects in a row that consist of tile, or if they like a couple of your furniture projects and then they see you build a deck or a patio or a fire pit, which are all things we want to do. Is that alienating, or do people just enjoy along for the process? And I don't really know that answer. I know when I watch other people, although some videos I may be more interested in the topic of than others, I enjoy watching anything a creator I like puts out. So I hope that that's the case for most people. But we'll see as we go. But I'd love to hear your opinion on that, of what you'd see of other people, if you think it makes more sense to try to really pick a niche and fit inside that, or does the topic not matter quite as much as long as you're putting out that same energy?
Yeah. So, of course, there's different schools of thought, but it's the level in which you niche down, right?
Yes.
So if you're really going after the binge watcher who is going to really loves one topic, then you niche down to, some people say, I'm going to focus on hand woodworking,
right?
Hand woodworking, making furniture. Well, that is very niche, and only certain people are going to watch every video on that. Then if you widen your net, so that you capture more niches within it, so you're more of maybe you're a DIY, or you're a maker instead of a woodworker,
right?
Then you get a wider range, but you're going to lose a certain population.
Yes.
So I don't think there's a wrong answer. I think it's where your passion is, and where you see the opportunity. I don't see anything wrong with being a maker channel, whether so you're doing woodworking, welding, painting, plumbing, tile work, all those type of things. I think there's a good market for that out there. And I think that it's just opinion. I don't have any data on it. I think you're more likely to be, have search-based content whenever you start doing a wider range, so that you'll pick up those people that are doing searches for how do I replace the ring in a Anderson toilet. So you get very specific so that you rank on certain things and you get that evergreen content. I think with woodworking, it's very tough to get that evergreen searchable content whenever you're doing things like cutting boards. There's a million videos out there on cutting boards. Yours are great.
There's so many great ones out there.
Yeah, it's hard to compete whenever you're doing something that a lot of others are doing.
Yes.
My channel is small. I don't get a lot of views, but one of my better performing videos is how to assemble a rigid miter saw stand, mobile miter saw stand.
Yeah.
And it's because it's search based, and people, I'm getting about 50 views a day. Nothing great.
That's awesome.
But it's, I think, at 18,000 views now, because it's 50 views a day, every day.
Yes.
So I think you get into those kind of things. So I know it's not a straightforward answer. I wish I had a clear-cut answer on that. You niche down to this point and you don't go any further. But I don't think it's that clear-cut. And it really depends, I think, so much on you and the way you do your videos. Do you come across likable? What demographics like you? I think, my demographics are middle-aged and over. Certain people attract a more younger crowd. So
so interesting to see that information. It's just so funny to see how some of that comes back. And of course, I don't have a huge audience, so I don't have a huge pool of that, but still you get some of that, and it's just funny to see, locations and age, like you said. It's interesting.
Yeah. And the stats coming back from YouTube are always great to help you drive your decisions.
Yes.
In the end, though, have fun and enjoy it.
Absolutely.
I don't plan on getting rich off of this. I don't plan on being Mr. Beast.
Yeah.
And I don't think most people do.
No.
I think a lot of people go about it. They'd like to make some money and grow, and the different people have different goals.
Right.
For you, what is your long-term goal on YouTube?
That's a great question. So I'd say that my goal at this point would be to get to a point where I was being able to create some things that I genuinely want to make, which is what I'm doing now, but have them kind of be self-sufficient. So, woodworking can be an expensive hobby for sure. So I don't know that I would, hey, I'll make as much money as anyone lets me, but I don't know that I'm really looking to do it as a full-time job, absolutely support myself as a career in that way. More if it could just, the hobby could support itself. So either through sponsorships of tools and materials, or through monetization, or through sponsors, through money. If I could get to a point where maybe not every single project paid for itself, but overall, on average, they were paying for themselves. I think that would make me, it would make me feel better when I needed to buy a new tool because I could feel like, oh, well, I'll eventually get this paid off just by using it and showing it off and teaching people. So that's one of my goals. And then a little, loftier goal is just to try to, I'm hopeful to encourage people to try to get into a new skill, even if it wasn't woodworking. That tile video or some of the other shorts, there's a floor transition one, and they're pretty simple, and if you listen to total experts on them, they can show you, in a bunch of ways that things could have been done differently. But I'm hoping to show off to people that you don't have to be perfect, and really things aren't quite as hard as you may think they're going to be. And you don't need a lot of, you can kind of just jump into some things. We have one video that goes over just the demolition of a wall, and then some sheetrocking and mudding and taping and painting. And, the tools for a video like that are almost no money. And the materials, sheetrock is cheap, and joint compound's cheap, and a hammer and a pry bar are cheap. So, something, but I think a lot of people have a wall in their house that they just hate, or a crack in sheetrock that they wish they could get fixed. And I'd hope that a video like that could just show someone that, I can jump into this. I'm not going to hurt myself with mud and sheetrock. So cut a couple pieces, put it up. If it looks terrible, I'll redo it sometime. So I think that there's the threshold to get into something like woodworking isn't just financial, and it isn't just skill based. I think it is. Fear has something to do with it. So I hope to take that away for someone and have them try something out, or just teach them to do some silly little thing that they didn't know. Or fix a project that you couldn't really find an answer for. Like, I remember as you mentioned for one of your videos there, it's so helpful to have those videos out there that just go over a simple thing. Building a router table or a table saw stand. Sometimes I'll watch the same 2-minute section of a video just over and over and over again, just to try to figure out how to do one part that the instructions don't show off, at least that don't make sense to me. And it's so helpful. I mean, it saves you hours of tinkering with something or possibly breaking it or whatever else. So those are, even if I could show someone something like that just made their day a little bit easier, I would, that's definitely a goal of mine.
Yeah. YouTube being the second biggest search engine has saved me hundreds of dollars, just things like changing the window regulators in our cars. I've done that 3 times with 2 different vehicles.
Fantastic.
And I always refer to YouTube because it reminds me exactly how to turn, which bolts I need to remove and which ones I don't.
Yes.
I don't have to recall all the information. YouTube has it.
Absolutely.
So I'm sharing your channel screen. So it's a interesting logo. So a lot of logos are getting more and more complicated. Some of them are shiny on the surface, but really I can't really tell what's going on. Not criticizing any one individuals. Yours seems very simple, but elegant and straightforward.
Thank you.
Not simple in a bad way.
No. I appreciate it.
So you got your hammer, what looks like a cog. What do you call it?
Yeah, a gear or cog or something.
Thank you. And a circular saw in a nice simple pattern with a nice flat background, so everything shows up. What was your inspiration for the logo, and did you do it yourself?
I did, kind of similar to how you asked about the website. I downloaded, or not downloaded, it's just on it's just a web app, but Canva was the one I used. Photoshop would have also worked great, but my trial had expired for that. So I used Canva, which is just a free online thing. And the idea behind it was that essentially the cube you see there would be a box, and that in each face of the cube would show one way that you could build that box. You could either do it with hand tools, represented by the hammer, with power tools, represented by the circular saw, or you could do it with something like a CNC or a 3D printer, or something with digital fabrication, laser cutter, whatever, and that the cog or the gear represents that. So I came up with that at the same time when they came up with the name, and it was the idea for it was one project, multiple ways to accomplish that project, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's do this. Okay. So I appreciate you coming on. I know we can find you at onewaytomake.com and One Way to Make on YouTube, but you're also on Instagram, right?
That's correct. Same thing, just One Way to Make. And yeah, we're kind of everywhere now. The Facebook, again, we just got started on that, but One Way to Make on that, and even on TikTok, One Way to Make on that. So yes, the one I am guilty of focusing on the most would be YouTube, and again, just because that's where most of my hours get spent viewing. And but yes, anywhere anyone would like. I love the community interaction. So if anyone thinks of any questions after this that they didn't get a chance to ask here, more than happy to answer anything, and would love to interact with anyone. Definitely for the next couple of weeks here, try to get, if anyone's interested, try to get entered to win that cutting board, totally free. Just need to enter a comment with the words that you find in the video there, and whatever else. Hopefully, lots of good stuff to come, and we're excited.
Yeah, and those cutting boards you're giving away, one of them's a beech, and what was the other one?
It's a curly maple, and we have a short on that shows it off. We have just a picture of it in the beach video, but there's just a short form video of the curly maple one. So we check those out and hopefully win one of them.
Yeah, they look great.
Thank you so much. They were really fun to make, and it's funny, you don't know what's going to be, what people are going to enjoy, whether it's the grain of the wood or the epoxy in it. Epoxy's so popular on YouTube that I thought this was my first project with epoxy, and I thought that would be a big hit with it. Or how to work with spalted wood, which can be interesting to some and whatever else. But the thing that I get the most questions about between the different platforms is where we got the template from. So, which we just made, we just drew up and cut out. So we're making a couple of videos about, one's out, one short, one's out now, about how we do the templates. But it's funny that just never, I just knew I didn't want to shape the wood by hand. So we drew up a little template, but it wasn't ever anything that I put much thought into. And it's so interesting to hear what people are interested in. So hopefully that will guide us going forward and whatever else.
Have you thought about selling the template?
Yes. So that's a great question. So, and I'm always open to advice. What seems like might be a good path is, in the plan right now, we've made about 4 other templates. Again, one video is out now about a short video about how to draw those. Then we're going to on MDF, even though the template you see in the video is actually a 1/2-inch plywood, but the rest we're making on MDF. And the next video will be about how to cut those out and finish them with a sander. And then, so yes, I think the goal will be to make up a bunch of templates, MDF templates, and sell those. And then hopefully to take some, this is a process I'm a little new to, but the goal would be to take some high quality photos of them so I could transfer them to I can't even think of the file format, but basically not a PDF, but like a vector file. And then we could sell them also for a lower price, so people could print their own at full size and then trace and cut out their own. So that will be the goal, is sell the cutting boards or sell the templates so you can make your own, or sell a version of it that you can print and or import to a CNC or laser cutter and then make your own that way. So give people some different options. So we'll see how that goes.
I think people will like that, because a lot of people want to make them, but they're intimidated. They don't want to do the design.
Yeah.
They want to make the board.
Yes, absolutely. And that really does cut down on a lot of it. I mean, and if you're going to start doing something and you have access to a router, like we've both said, that's one of the most fun things you can do with templating bits or flush cutting bits. So definitely a great way to get into something, and or try to lower that barrier to entry with just a 99-cent or $1.99, is something that someone could print and hopefully take some of that intimidation out of it would feel great. So we'll see what happens.
Joey, I've enjoyed talking to you.
Me as well. Thank you.
I hear my wife calling.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And I really appreciate it, not just with me, but I've been able to get through a few of your videos, and it's always feels great to just know that you're not alone in it. So I really appreciate it. I think you're doing a great thing, and hopefully talk soon.
All right. Thanks. Hear my wife calling. I got to go.
There ain't another girl like her in the city. No, knows you look so good, but she ain't so pretty.
I don't know why I feel this way, but I'm the ride she's driving insane. And don't you know you oughta pump the brakes? I can't tell you why don't you let it go. I'm the line and finally I'ma let you know you're somewhere in between my legs. Hey, you know there ain't another girl like her in the city. Yeah, you know she looks so good, but she ain't so pretty. I can't believe I rode so long with this whole time you riding me wrong. Don't you know you oughta take a risk, try your best, give it to me straight, and don't deny or reply, I don't wanna wait. We're at the end of the road, it's time to let go of everything. There ain't another girl like her in the city. No, you know she looks so good, but she ain't so pretty. So leave me alone before I end it up here on the phone. Another reason to be held around for a while. This is where I leave. You don't have to speak. There's no room for goodbyes or desperate lies between the teeth. That's just how it goes. Everybody knows there's no room for the games. And all remains, there ain't another girl like her in the city. Yeah, no, you know she looks so good, but she ain't so pretty. So leave me alone before I end it up here on the phone with another reason to be held around for a while. There ain't another girl, ain't another girl, ain't another girl. There ain't another girl, ain't another girl, ain't another girl.
Saw that there was a gap in the market.
I do think it's important. As much as I'm not really a fan of saying having the avatar behind the camera, I do think it helps to imagine that you're actually talking to somebody who will be watching the video. Sometimes it's easy to forget that you see numbers of people watching, but you forget that these are actual people watching your video on their phone or on their TV or wherever. And I think it's important to keep that in mind.